The room went dead silent. Every single reporter in that building stopped breathing for just a second. Because the man sitting at that table, the man who had said absolutely nothing for weeks, the man who had hidden behind lawyers and invoked his Fifth Amendment rights and refused every single interview, every single police question, every single opportunity to speak, opened his mouth and said 4 words that nobody in that room was prepared for. I was there that night. Cameras flashed. Pens dropped. Someone in the back of the room audibly gasped. For weeks this man had gone completely radio silent while an 84-year-old grandmother, a woman he was supposed to protect, was missing from her own home. While her daughter stood in front of television cameras with tears streaming down her face and begged for mercy from whoever had taken her mother. While an entire nation watched and waited and demanded answers that never came. And now here he was, finally talking. But here is the part that nobody saw coming. Right after those 4 words, right after the room erupted, he leaned back toward the microphone and said something else. Something that stopped every single person in that room completely cold. She was not alone. 3 words. And with those 3 words the entire case broke open. Because up until that moment everybody believed this was a story about one man and one missing woman. But those 3 words meant there was someone else inside that house on the night Nancy Guthrie disappeared. Someone who has not yet been named publicly. Someone who investigators believe knows exactly where she is right now. Welcome to Black Veil Crime Files. I am your narrator, and tonight we are going deeper into one of the most urgent active investigations in America right now than anyone has gone before. The disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. And the confession that just blew everything wide open. Hit that like button right now. Share this video immediately because someone watching this might recognize a detail that breaks this case. Subscribe to Black Veil Crime Files with notifications turned on because in a case moving this fast you cannot afford to miss a single update. And stay until the very last second of this video because what investigators found buried in that desert is something you are absolutely not prepared for. Let us begin. Who is Nancy Guthrie? Before we go any further into the evidence and the timelines and the buried desert and the 4-second audio recording that made an entire grand jury go quiet, you need to understand who Nancy Guthrie actually is. Because in cases like this one, the person at the center can very easily become lost inside the case itself. Reduced to a data point, a name in a headline, and Nancy Guthrie deserves far more than that. Nancy is 84 years old. She is not a stranger you read about in a news brief. She is someone's mother, someone's grandmother. She is the kind of woman who baked cookies for her grandchildren and showed up early to church every single Sunday without fail. She spent her career as a university administrator. She worked hard across decades. She built a life. She raised her children. And when her husband passed, she kept going because that is the kind of woman she is. Steady, strong, quiet, the kind of strength that does not announce itself. She had a pacemaker. Her heart needed a little help keeping rhythm. But her spirit, as everyone who knew her has said in every interview, every statement, every tearful public plea made in her name, her spirit never needed any help at all. She lived in Tucson, Arizona, in a neat and peaceful neighborhood she knew completely. It was her routine, her safety, the place she had shaped into a home over years of quiet and faithful daily life. On the night of February 1st, 2026, the light inside that home went dark, and so did everything else. The evening of February 1st, every confirmed detail. February 1st began like any other day for Nancy. But by the time the sun went down over Tucson, something had shifted inside that house. Something that would change her family forever. At 7:12 in the evening, a food delivery arrived at Nancy's front door. 2 meals. Not 1, 2. That small detail matters more than it might seem at first. The order came from her son-in-law's account. Tommaso Cyan. He was already there that evening. Neighbors saw his car parked in the driveway around 6:30. Phone data later confirmed it. He was inside that house and dinner was not a coincidence. Dinner was planned. The delivery driver later told investigators that when the door opened, the man on the other side looked tense, tight jaw, distracted, and somewhere in the background a woman's voice could be heard. Not yelling, just talking, but something about the whole interaction felt off. The driver mentioned it to his girlfriend that night. He said it just felt strange. That offhand comment to a girlfriend would later become a witness statement in a criminal investigation. At 7:40, Nancy's home phone made a call to her lawyer's office. It went to voicemail. Forensic experts later recovered a partial message. The words they could make out were short, but they carried enormous weight. Important change. Not comfortable. Tomorrow. Was she talking about her will? Her finances? About Tommaso? Investigators believe all three, because here is what most people did not know at the time. Nancy had a meeting scheduled with her attorney on February 3rd. 2 days away. She was planning to make changes to her legal documents. Changes that would reduce Tommaso's financial control. Changes that would pull back the power of attorney he had been holding over her affairs. And Tommaso knew that meeting was coming. Now pay close attention to what happened between 8:42 and 9:03 that evening, because those 21 minutes are the center of this entire case. At 8:20, neighbors reported hearing raised voices coming from inside Nancy's home. Not screaming, but noticeably louder than normal. Nancy was known as a calm and soft-spoken woman. Raised voices were unusual for her. Then at 8:31, Tommaso received a phone call, 14 seconds long. The number was not saved in his contacts. Investigators traced it. Came from a prepaid phone, the kind you pay cash for at a gas station. That phone had been purchased just 3 days before February 1st. 14 seconds. That is just enough time to say something short. Something simple. Are you ready? It is time. What do you need me to do? We still do not know what was said in those 14 seconds. But what happened immediately after that call tells investigators everything. At 8:42 in the evening, Nancy's pacemaker recorded something alarming. Her heart rhythm changed. Not slowly, not naturally, suddenly, like someone frightened, like someone in pain. 5 minutes later at 8:47, the device detected sharp physical movement. Not walking, not sitting down. Sharp movement. The kind of movement that happens when a body shifts fast and without warning. At 8:52, the pacemaker recorded what doctors call an acute cardiac event. Her heart was in serious trouble. And at 9:03 in the evening, the pacemaker signal stopped completely. Not because the battery died. Not because the device malfunctioned. Because someone physically removed it. 11 minutes. From the first spike of cardiac distress to complete silence. 11 minutes and nobody called 911. Nobody called an ambulance. Nobody called for help. Instead, something else happened entirely. The details that troubled investigators from the start. There are several details in this case that did not make major headlines early on, but that investigators found deeply troubling from the very first day. There was no forced entry. None. The doors were not kicked in. The windows were not broken. The locks showed no damage. Whoever was inside that house on the night of February 1st was not a stranger who broke their way in. They were let in, welcomed in, trusted. Nancy's small dog was found inside the home the following morning. Calm, not hiding, not shaking in a corner. Dogs bark at strangers. They growl. They pace. They alert. But they do not always bark at people they recognize. Neighbors reported that the dog had been barking around 8:45 that evening and then stopped. Quickly. Suddenly. As if someone it recognized had quietly told it to settle down. That detail is small, but it keeps coming back. Then there was the garage door. Days before Nancy disappeared, the garage door had been positioned to a very specific angle. Not fully closed, just low enough to block the driveway security camera from capturing a clear view of what came and went. When Tommaso was asked about it early in the investigation, he said it was to keep the sun out. But detectives found that explanation difficult to accept. Because when the security cameras were later deliberately destroyed, it became clear that whoever destroyed them already knew exactly where every single one was located. They had thought about visibility in advance. They had already considered what could and could not be seen and from which angle. And there is one more detail. At 9:34 in the evening, during the window between the pacemaker going silent and an SUV leaving the driveway, Nancy's home Wi-Fi recorded a login to the security system. The correct password was entered. The cameras were disabled remotely before being physically damaged. Whoever entered that password knew it. And Nancy was not someone who shared passwords casually or freely. The silence of Tommaso Cyan. When police first began asking questions, Tommaso Cyan did something the entire country noticed. He hired a lawyer. He said nothing. He declined every interview. He ignored every reporter. He refused to cooperate with investigators. He invoked his Fifth Amendment right to remain silent and stayed there, locked behind that silence, for weeks. Now some people say that is simply smart legal strategy. You do not talk to police without a lawyer. That is your right. But here is the thing. Savannah Guthrie, Nancy's daughter, one of the most recognizable faces in American television, stood in front of cameras with tears in her eyes and begged for her mother to come home. She made it public and personal and raw. The family offered a reward of $100,000. Savannah's brother and sister spoke out. They searched. They pushed. They did everything that people do when someone they love has been taken from them. And Tommaso, nothing. Not one word of support. Not one public statement. Not one appearance beside the family at any search event. Not one gesture of concern. A man who lived 15 minutes away from where this woman disappeared, a man who was supposed to be part of her family, said absolutely nothing. One Tucson resident said it simply and directly in an interview. My gut is telling me it is the brother-in-law. You have not seen him. You have not heard from him. Radio silent. That is very suspicious to me. And that suspicion was building not just in Tucson but across the entire country. Then the FBI joined the case. Search warrants were signed. Phones, computers, and bank records were pulled. A masked figure was caught on nearby security footage. Ransom notes appeared, but police quickly determined those were almost certainly scams. And still Tommaso said nothing. Until that press conference. Until those 4 words. The press conference. I was there that night. The cameras clicked like tiny hammers. Bright lights pointed straight at one man sitting at a long wooden table. His hands were folded in front of him. His lawyer sat close beside him. The room was quiet in a way that rooms rarely are anymore. A reporter cleared her throat. Mr. Cyan, do you have anything to say about Nancy Guthrie's disappearance? Tommaso lifted his head slowly. His face looked tired. His eyes were red around the edges. He leaned toward the microphone. Yes, he said. I have something to say. More cameras flashed. Pens scratched across notebooks. The air inside that room felt heavy. For weeks people have believed I hurt Nancy. He paused. And I was there that night. Real gasps. From real people in that room. I did go back to the house. A louder wave of voices swept through the room. He continued. He admitted there had been an argument. He admitted Nancy had told him she was planning to make important changes. Changes to her will. Changes to the power of attorney. Changes that would take financial control away from him. He said he went back to talk. He said he did not go there to hurt her. And then he said the 3 words that changed everything. She was not alone. The room froze a second time. Because now this was no longer a story about one person and a missing grandmother. Now there was someone else. A second person who had been inside that house that night. A second person who has stayed silent while the whole world watched. A second person who investigators believe may hold the key to finding Nancy Guthrie. What the pacemaker recorded. 3 weeks before Tommaso spoke publicly, investigators had quietly received a full data report from Nancy's cardiologist. And what that report showed sent a chill through every detective working this case. At 8:42 in the evening, her heart rhythm changed suddenly and severely. At 8:47, the device detected sharp physical movement. At 8:52, it recorded what doctors describe as acute distress. Her heart was in crisis. And at 9:03, the signal stopped completely because the device was physically removed from her body. Now here is what most people do not understand about pacemakers. Removing one is not simple. It is not something you do accidentally. It is not something that happens in a moment of panic without intention. It takes deliberate physical force. It takes a decision made by a person who chooses to make it. Doctors who reviewed the timeline said one thing clearly and directly. If someone truly wanted to help Nancy at 8:52 when her heart was in crisis, the only logical action, the only human action, was to call 911. Instead, the pacemaker was removed 11 minutes later. Investigators believe it was not removed to help her. They believe it was removed to erase the timeline, because pacemakers record everything: time, rhythm, movement, distress. Every second of what happened inside that house was recorded on that small device inside Nancy's chest. And once the device is removed, the recording stops. If you want to create confusion about when something happened, removing that device achieves exactly that. That is not panic. That is a calculated decision made under pressure by someone who understood what the device contained. And pressure, as investigators were learning, had been building in that house for days. The text message that said everything. At 9:26 in the evening, Tommaso's phone sent a text message. It was short, just one word, sent to the prepaid phone number, the same number that had called him at 8:31 earlier that night during the argument. The word was handled. Not accident. Not help. Not call me. Not please come. Handled. Investigators say that single word shifted the entire tone of the case. Because handled does not sound like a man in panic. Handled does not sound like a man who just watched something terrible happen and does not know what to do. Handled sounds like a man wrapping something up, finalizing something, closing a chapter. When detectives later asked Tommaso about that text, his answer was simple. I do not remember, but phone data remembers everything. At 9:22 in the evening, motion was detected inside the garage. 46 seconds of movement. At 9:24, Tommaso's phone connected to his SUV's Bluetooth system. The car door likely opened. At 9:26, the text handled was sent. At 9:29, someone logged into Nancy's home security panel and placed it into maintenance mode, which stopped all automatic alerts from being sent to the monitoring company. That final action requires calm hands. It requires a password. It requires someone thinking clearly enough to cover every angle while an 84-year-old woman lies somewhere in that house. At 9:34 in the evening, Nancy's backyard light, the one she had left on every single night of her life for years, went dark. At 9:41, an SUV slowly pulled out of the driveway and moved quietly down the street. Not rushing, not panicking, careful. The desert. At 10:07 that night, Tommaso's phone pinged a cell tower on the east side of Tucson, far from Nancy's neighborhood, near a stretch of open desert land with almost no lights, very few homes, and almost no security cameras. His phone stopped moving for 9 minutes. 9 minutes parked in darkness in the desert. Investigators searched that area weeks later after the public statement. They returned with cadaver dogs, drones, and ground-penetrating radar. Crime scene tape stretched across dry sand and desert brush. One of the dogs stopped suddenly. His body went stiff. Then it sat down. That is how trained cadaver dogs signal a find. A second dog was brought in independently to the same location. Same prosecutors played that 4-second audio in the grand jury room. Some jurors lowered their heads. Because one word from one woman in 4 seconds, a word that could mean 100 different things, made all the data and all the timelines and all the phone records suddenly feel like a real person. A real life. A real ending that nobody should have had. Tommaso has never publicly addressed that audio. His lawyer said it could mean anything. Investigators say the timing says everything. The interrogation. I did not plan for her to die. When detectives sat Tommaso down in a small gray room with the pacemaker casing on the table between them, something finally broke. Detective Morales slid the evidence bag forward without saying a word at first. Tommaso looked down at it. His jaw tightened. His breathing changed. For the first time since this entire case began, the calm that he had maintained through weeks of public silence disappeared from his face. We found this in the desert, the detective said quietly. Silence. No panic drives someone to a desert road. She continued. No panic buries a blanket. No panic connects to a second vehicle. Tommaso stared at the table. His lawyer whispered something. He nodded once. Then he looked up. I did not plan for her to die. Not she did not die. Not I did not hurt her. I did not plan for her to die. Investigators noted that specific construction immediately. The words of a man acknowledging something happened rather than denying it ever did. Who was with you? The detective asked. A long pause. There was someone else, he said. His lawyer tried to stop him. Tommaso kept talking. He said that after Nancy fell during the argument, he claimed she hit her head. He panicked. He said she was still breathing at that point. He said that instead of calling 911, he called someone he trusted. A business associate. Someone who owed him. That person arrived later. That person, Tommaso told investigators, suggested staging the scene, destroying the cameras, removing the pacemaker to create confusion about the timeline. Make it look like a break-in, he allegedly said. And so together they moved her. But here is the part that stops you completely cold. Tommaso told detectives that Nancy stopped breathing in the garage. Not in the hallway where the argument happened. Not in the kitchen. In the garage. Which means she may have still been alive when she was first moved. When decisions were being made around her instead of for her. When someone was thinking about camera angles and security passwords and how to stage a scene instead of calling an ambulance for an 84-year-old woman whose pacemaker had just been recording her heart in crisis for 11 minutes. The second person. The prepaid phone. The masked figure caught on nearby security footage. The Bluetooth connection to a second vehicle in the desert. The second set of cell tower pings near the house and near the desert site on the same night. All of it had been pointing toward one thing from the very beginning. Tommaso did not do this alone. Investigators traced the store where the prepaid phone was purchased. Security footage showed a person in a baseball cap and sunglasses paying with cash. No identification. The person appeared slightly taller than Tommaso. Slim build. Moved quickly and deliberately. Could this be the masked figure captured on footage near the house that night? Possibly. Could this be the person who arrived after the 14-second phone call at 8:31? Investigators believe almost certainly yes. At 10:12 in the evening during the 9-minute stop in the desert, Tommaso's phone briefly connected to a second Bluetooth device. Not his own SUV. That connection lasted 18 seconds. Investigators believe another vehicle was present at that desert location during those 9 minutes. Which means something or someone may have been transferred between those two vehicles in the dark. And the prepaid phone itself pinged a cell tower near that same desert area at 10:05 that night. 2 phones. 2 signals. 1 remote location. 1 dark night. 1 9-minute window. Tommaso eventually gave detectives the name of his associate during the interrogation. He claimed that after leaving the desert he drove home and the other man took over. He says he does not know where Nancy was taken after that point. Whether that claim is true or a final attempt to limit his own exposure is something only the investigation will determine. An arrest warrant was issued for Tommaso for obstruction of justice, evidence tampering, and manslaughter. The second suspect is under active investigation. Detectives are not releasing everything publicly yet, but they are close. The family in the middle of all of it. Annie Guthrie is Nancy's oldest daughter. She is also Tommaso's wife. She is the woman caught directly in the center of the most impossible position a person can be placed in. Her mother is missing. Her husband has just confessed to being in that house the night it happened. And she must somehow continue to exist inside that reality. During the early weeks Annie stood by Tommaso. She told close friends she believed him. She said he would never hurt her mother. But after his statement at the press conference, after he admitted destroying the cameras, removing the pacemaker, panicking instead of calling 911, she went quiet. Sources say that after the statement she confronted him directly. She asked him one question. Who else was there? He did not give her a clear answer. And that silence inside the family may have been louder than any silence he kept publicly for all those weeks. Savannah Guthrie issued statements throughout this ordeal that were carefully worded and controlled. A journalist by profession, she understands exactly how words land when they are public. She never directly accused Tommaso by name in any public statement. But after the interrogation details leaked, her language shifted. My mother deserves the full truth, she said. We will not stop searching for her. Less hope in those words. More resolve. And the difference between a family still searching and a family beginning to prepare for what might come next is a difference that anyone who has watched those statements closely can hear. Where things stand right now. For everything that has been uncovered, for every piece of evidence that has been found, for every confirmation that has come through, the pacemaker data, the desert blanket, the text message, the 4-second audio, the confession in the gray room, Nancy Guthrie has not been found. Not yet. The desert site revealed the blanket and the device, but not her. Investigators believe she may have been moved a second time. The Bluetooth connection in the desert. The second vehicle. The associate who allegedly took over after Tommaso drove home. All of it suggests the final location may be somewhere else entirely. Somewhere that has not yet been searched. Somewhere that only one person still knows. Search teams are expanding. Ground-penetrating radar is being deployed in new areas. Traffic cameras near desert roads from the night of February 1st are being re-examined frame by frame. Every second of footage from every camera that pointed anywhere near any road that night is being reviewed. Financial records show that Nancy's accounts had unusual activity in the weeks before she disappeared. Tommaso had been moving money. Small amounts at first, then larger ones. Nancy had noticed. She had started asking questions. She had made a voicemail to her lawyer. She had scheduled a meeting for February 3rd. That meeting, that power of attorney about to be pulled back, that financial control about to slip away, may be the root of everything that happened on the night of February 1st. People do terrible things when they feel like they are losing control. But here is something that needs to be said clearly before we end. Nancy Guthrie is not a case number. She is not a statistic. She is not a mystery being solved for entertainment. She is an 84-year-old grandmother who left a voicemail saying she was not comfortable. Who said please into a dark room in the final moments of that night. Who baked cookies and went to church and trusted the people around her with the particular trust of a woman who has spent her whole life choosing to believe in the goodness of others. She deserves the full truth. Her family deserves closure. And every piece of evidence, every phone ping, every fiber of fabric, every second of that 4-second audio recording is a step toward both. The silence never lasts forever. As of right now, the case is moving toward prosecution. The grand jury continues to hear testimony. The second suspect is under active investigation. The desert search is expanding into new areas. Tommaso broke his silence, but he did not tell the whole truth. Not yet, because there is still one person out there who knows exactly what happened between 9:15 and 9:41 that night. One person who knows where Nancy is. One person who has been carrying that knowledge in silence, watching the news coverage, watching the evidence close in from every direction, watching the timeline stack higher against them with every passing day. Silence never lasts forever. Cracked once already. When it cracks again, and it will, the full truth will finally come out. If you know anything about Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, please contact the Tucson Police Department or submit an anonymous tip through their official website. You can remain completely anonymous. A reward of $100,000 remains active. No questions asked. And if the story moved you, if it made you think about the people you love and the trust they place in the people around them, please share this video right now. Awareness matters in active cases. Every share puts this story in front of new eyes. Every new set of eyes is another chance that someone recognizes something. A detail, a face, a name. Something that breaks everything open. Subscribe to Black Veil Crime Files with notifications on, because in a case moving this fast, updates are coming and you cannot afford to miss them. Leave a comment below and tell me what detail in this case you cannot stop thinking about. Tell me what you believe happened during those 9 minutes in the desert. Tell me what that one word please means to you, because this case is not over. And Nancy Guthrie's name will stay on this channel until she is found. We cover these cases because every person in them deserves to have their story told completely and without compromise. This is Black Veil Crime Files. I will see you in the next one. Black Heart.